Okay, we have The Bay by Helen Frankenthaler. This is also done in the 60s. So, as the information that I gave you about Yayoi Kusama mentioned, 60s, we might think about Andy Warhol, but we also want to think about those American abstract expressionists, and that's what we're going to get into here. I'm not going to read all the slides here because you can do it yourself and you can take notes on that yourself. But I do want to point out that one of the main things that we'll want to think about is the technique that she uses in the creation of her pieces. If we look at this, we might think, if we might, we can imagine, this could have been made with a brush, but it doesn't quite look like it was made with a brush. And that's because it wasn't made with a brush. And the reason why I say it doesn't quite look like it was made with a brush is just because of the intensity of the color, kind of fading, strange, excuse me, it kind of almost like an ombre, right? And so actually, because this is done creating what we call a soak stain method, and so what she does actually is she pours the paint directly onto the canvas, which is on the floor, and then she would move the canvas around. Or she would like tilt the canvas, move it up and down so that the paint would run over the canvas in different ways. And so we get a real a flow to the distribution of color that we don't normally get with use of paint brushes, right? It's also important to note that this is acrylic. It's acrylic paint that she's using, which is a relatively recent invention, kind of paint. It's not tempera, and it's not oil. It's acrylic. Um, it also is somewhat diluted, so it's a bit thinner, right? So that the paint can maybe run a little more easily across the canvas. And also, it's important to note that she has not primed her canvas. Typically, what you would do to a canvas is you would prime it. You basically prep it with other kinds of material, with other kind of to in order to make it ready to receive the paint, so the paint doesn't actually soak through the canvas. But here, the paint is actually getting involved in the warp and the weft of the canvas, which is not normally how painting works. Normally, the paint is on top of the canvas in a sense. So in thinking about this, read this information about accounting for gravity. So there's this kind of watercolor-like effect. She is part of the abstract expressionist movement in America. And they were very well-known painters at that time, including Jackson Pollock, whom you might know for something like this. Is very famous. You can read the rest of this yourself. And so, good. Helen Frankenthaler, The Bay, Soak Stain Method.